Which unsolved mystery are you most interested in? Why? D. B. Cooper. The fact that the moment he jumped out of the 727. Nothing about him was ever uncovered again. Did he die? If not, what happened to him? Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. Would do anything to learn what actually happened on that flight. There are a lot of undeciphered languages out there. A large portion are because the languages either grew up in isolation or didn't leave any descendants. I often wonder what those languages recorded that we've never seen. The true identity of Master Fard Muhammad. Despite having a report on him that spans several hundred pages, no one in the FBI or anywhere else can say for sure who he really was, apart from being a street preacher who founded the Nation of Islam. He showed up in Detroit in 1930. And disappeared in 1934. I think people know what they think happened. But Madeleine McCann. I've always hoped for an outcome to it as it was massive news. What happened to Maura Murray? College girl gets in a car crash near Woodsville, New Hampshire. Abandons her car and is never to be seen again. There are several theories. The most commonly agreed case is that she succumbed to the elements. John Benet Ramsey. I just really want to know what happened in the Ramsey house that night. The Villisca axe murders because a whole family and a couple of their kids' friends were violently murdered via axe. The killer was never caught, I'm assuming because it happened in 1912. I'm going to school for forensic investigation and one of my friends told me about how one of her professors had made her class write a paper analyzing the murders and stuff. I had to do a paper on the important evidence of the O.J. Simpson trial. Welp. Guess I know how I'm spending my night. Unsolved Mysteries rabbit hole. I think either who Zodiac was. Or who killed Elizabeth Short. Asha Degree. It just seems that there are no leads or suspects whatsoever. The money pit. I just want to know what's at the bottom. Even if it's just water, dirt, and logs. I hate to be cliché. But I really want to know what's in Area 51. The disappearance, death of Natalie Holloway. Because she lived in a neighboring city about 20 minutes away from me. Who was Jack the Ripper and how was Damascus steel originally made? That has carbon nanotubes in them somehow. An obscure one I learned from Unsolved Mysteries. The 1987 Arkansas murders of Don Henry and Kevin Ives. The Boys on the Tracks. The Voynich manuscript. It's a book that's totally undeciphered. And written in an unknown language. With pictures of plants that aren't any identifiable plants. And other strange things like women coming out of pipes. It's carbon dated to the 1400s but nothing else is known about its origin. And all attempts to figure it out have been debunked. Who put Bella in the Wyke Elm? It always fascinated me. Mostly because of the graffiti that popped up after the body was discovered and how some people connected it to World War II spies. The Dyatlov Pass incident. What happened? What went wrong? What was so urgent that they cut themselves out of their tent and ran out into a snowstorm? And what caused their injuries? What creature could do such damage? The world won't know. All we can do is guess. Maybe one day they'll find the truth. Or maybe this will go down as an unsolved mystery to the end. Cancerbero's death. Probably most of you don't know about it. Given that it happened in Venezuela. So I'll give you a brief explanation. Cancerbero was a famous Venezuelan rapper. On 2015 he was staying with a friend named Carlos and Carlos' wife Natalia. They had just come from a tour. One day he fell from the apartment window and died. When the police arrived, they found Carlos dead with multiple stab wounds. Natalia, the only witness, said that Cancerbero was staying with them because he was dealing with schizophrenia. She said that he suddenly went into their room, stabbed Carlos to death and then jumped out of the window when he realized what he had done. Some weeks later, the case was reopened. Due to some inconsistencies of the evidences and the testimony. Cancerbero's family claimed that he had no mental illness. The window's glasses had been taken out in order to fit a person through. And someone had put them on again. The $6,000 they had earned on the tour were never found. And Natalia, the only person who knew what happened, left the country a few days after the incident. The Austin Yogurt Shop murders in 1991 and the Burger Chef murders in 1978. To this day no clue. Biggie Smalls murder. Who killed him and why? I already know who killed Tupac. Amelia Earhart's death. She was this close to finishing her trip around the world when she went missing. Well, plenty of good ones have been mentioned, so I'll just throw a few out there. They wouldn't top anyone's list, but how to make Damascus steel Roman Concite Greek fire. Lars Matank. He was last seen running for his life from an airport in a yellow t-shirt in July 2014. Why did he run? What did he see have happened to him? Where did he go? The Alaskan missing person cases. About 100 to 200 people go missing in a certain forest in Alaska. Is it a portal to an alternate universe, or what's happening in that forest? A woman in my town went missing a year or so back on St. Patrick's Day. She was at a bar late with friends and went out the back door to take a phone call, and no one has seen her since. It really shook the whole community up, and now we are all just waiting for her body to show up at this point. Other than that, the Ramsey, which also happened near me, really gets to me. There was so much time for that family to plan and clean up tracks if they did it. But at the same time, some details don't make sense, like the assault matching none of the family's DNA. I personally think the mom did it, and so do officers that still work in the town. IDK if this one counts, but Cicada 3301. Ever since I've first heard about it, I've spent hours every night just thinking about it. And IDK if there will ever be an explanation, but if I don't wanna know what it is. The Zodiac Killer. The mythos around it and the clues involved and all the hints are so interesting. Not to mention the possible connections to killings that may or may not have been him. Like the Riverside killing. I have too. Johnny Gosch and Matrice Richardson. I really want to know if Johnny's mom did see him. If he really was involved in some horrific child cult. Etc. And I also really want to know what happened to Matrice. Why the police so hastily gathered up and transported her remains. Without the coroner's approval and without being careful enough to make sure they had all her bones. Fishy. For sure. Top post of all time on RBI Reddit finds that a company is using self-development as a front. And teaching rich businessmen how to get away with rape. He even found videos where they hidden camera raped women on film. The day after the post is made, the Redditor gets their account suspended and we never hear about it again. Who the Epstein? Who all was on his list? How many celebrities from Pedowood are on it, and how many politicians? Out of Shadows documentary was pretty insightful. Melungeon people in Appalachia. A somewhat dark-skinned, Mediterranean-looking population of people that lived deep in the mountains in western North Carolina that claimed they were the descendants of stranded Portuguese sailors. Their culture was very European. But by all accounts they were there when other white people moved west. Were they actually descended from runaway slaves? Some think so. Nobody really knows where they came from. They over time intermarried with Cherokee peoples and their story got forgotten. My grandmother's last name is listed as a common Melungeon name, and her family came from that area 150 years ago. That is why I am interested. The Highway of Tears. Highway 16 between Prince George and Prince Rupert, BC, Canada. Beginning 1970. Women mostly Aboriginal disappear and are never heard from again. Along this highway there has multiple suspects but nothing ever confirmed, and being that far out you can set up home and no one would even know. I just wanna know who and how many. But I am sure it's multiple murderers and they'll never be caught. I would like to find out about those reporters who tried to warn the world about the coronavirus who all ended up going missing. We all know it wasn't by accident. A couple women in Niagara Falls, USA have been found dismembered over the past couple years. Not really sure the time frame. Anyway, I work in news, and one day I was sent to a call of the FBI being on scene at house that, allegedly, a neighbor saw severed it in the early morning. Well, I'm sent out there and other news stations are there as well. Knocking on doors and shooting video of FBI agents bring boxes in and out of the house. Everyone is packing up and I wanna talk to one more neighbor. I get back to my car and a younger man rolls up on me in his car and asks about the story. I tell him not sure. Could all be hearsay, still could be for all I know, and he tells me his aunt was dismembered a few years ago. I'm like, okay, have a nice day. I get in my car, book it back to my station. I tell my coworkers and one of them swears the young man is the guy who has been dismembering the women in the falls. I still wonder who it is and if that was really him. I doubt it, but you never know. It's interesting. Wouldn't be surprised if there is a serial killer in that area. The wow message. It just baffles me and I really hope I'm alive when that mystery solved.